right, now we're officially recording. I think this is the third open forum. So I want to give a big thank you to Nader, Tom, and Stephen for being on this one. And today we're actually talking about a topic around how do we start and wrap up our day. And we're calling it, how do we bookend our day? Nader, this actually came out from a conversation. We've only just met in the last week. And we ended up having a 20-minute conversation around this. You know, Stephen, right before the call, you talked about serendipitous. Like, for me, that's like, that was exactly that, where we're like, we got to talk more about this. So each of us had our own way of starting a day, and I suspect all four of us do. So, Nader, why don't you introduce yourself, like give a chance to share who you are and what you do, and we're going to jump right into it.
100%, 100%. So I'll tell you what happened to me back in August. In August, I started this new program that got me to really focus on me. You know, I'm the kind of guy, at being a coach, I always put myself out there for everyone else. I work to help others, So a few months piled on and I realized that I was just like neglecting me. Like, who's taking care of me? Hello. Right. So a month and a half before that, 45 days exactly before that, I'd gotten to a point that I wanted to launch a new part of my business, a product, a training course, and it was a complete failure. So I took on a little bit of a dip, which turned into just 45 days of eating and 20 pounds gained. So August 1st came and I was just in a terrible place, man. Just having completely lost total sense of self-respect, had no self-love, internally, if you looked inside my head, that was just like a dark place. From the outside, everything looked good, successful guy, good looking, all that stuff. But inside I was just like, oh, I hate myself. Took me back to the, days where you were hooked on drugs and alcohol and just the dark days, right? So that's the kind of feeling I got back and realized that, okay, I can't do this no more. There's a reason, I got clean. There's a reason I got sober. So I'm now using food as drugs, right? And that was kind of like literally getting goosebumps telling you this. Every time I tell this story, I get goosebumps because it's like really touches me in a deep part of my heart. And I know a lot of other people are going through the same thing as well. They don't have a daily routine. They don't have a program. They start their day and they end their day. Just whatever happens, happens. They go with the flow. And going with the flow is like the biggest lie, the biggest just vision deviator of them all. And I don't know if you ever swam in a river, but I hate it. Swimming in a river is terrible. Because you realize that, oh my God, I came here to fish and I don't even know where I am anymore and shouldn't have taken that, that jump.
Yeah.
So it's just been crazy. So since then, I've been focused on getting up and having entire day programmed. And before going to the bed, make sure I program the day ahead. And it's just been all about programming. My buddy Will was telling us this morning after our morning burpee session that even if when we're not programming, we're programming because we're looking at things that don't work. So we deviate, we go away from things that don't work and we get closer to things that do work. So long story short, it is really about thinking less by planning ahead, becoming more productive by getting stuff done and getting it done in the right order. I'm a big fan of processes and procedures and just like my coach Wes says, define your best day and just live that best day over and over and over again. So with that said, that's what brings me here. I'm excited. I'm passionate about helping people define their day from the morning. I always say, again, I got to maybe rephrase what I said earlier. Your day starts before it starts, from the night before. So start your tomorrow from tonight. And then when you get tomorrow, when tomorrow starts, everything's already been done. You hit the ground running, so to speak, and you're going to have a fantastic day. So thank you for inviting me here and looking forward to speaking with everyone, Gene, Stephen, and Tom.
Yeah, no, like that's a great intro to it, right? And, I want to jump into the starting your day the night before is like how important that is, right? Like imagine you start your day, like I looked at this as, maybe I took it for granted of like just doing simple things like, oh, am I going to pick what clothes I'm going to wear? Am I going to pick what, what I'm going to eat in the morning? What am I going to, at what time am I going to work out? Or back then, was I even working out? Like all these choices before you even like get out the door, in my case, hit my main floor. I've already made like half a dozen choices. And what I've learned is like, that's just chipping away at your willpower, your decision making ability all day. Like you get to, done breakfast time or out to work, and you're already not running on a full tank when you need to have your most creativity. And what's that's happening once you hit work, be like those things just chase you all day. And then by the time you halfway, not even halfway through your day, I was finding I was like, used to be like almost falling asleep by 2 o'clock. It was like clockwork. And it'd be like, oh, it must be too, like literally almost like passed out at my desk because the energy was completely gone. And what I've realized from that with inadvertently was like how much better my days were if I gifted myself the night before the setup, or if I gifted myself on Sunday, getting my calendar sorted out for the big things I wanted to take, right? Like in the mornings, I don't worry about what I'm picking to wear. I don't worry about what I'm going to eat or anything else. I've already put my clothes beside my bed for the day, like socks, underwear, shoes, like it's all there. Workout stuff piled up in another pile. I already know in the morning what's going to happen. Am I going to do yoga? Am I going to do freeletics? Am I choosing to sleep in? Some days I choose that, right? Like I need the recoup, but I'm trying to make all those choices. And if I make them the night before and have it not just made, but prepped, man, that day, by the time like 12 o'clock comes around, they are flowing, and it is really moving. Like you talk about being in the flow of life, just going with the flow is a bad thing, and I agree with you. But there's another state of flow, is like when you are like mentally and spiritually in flow and you're just doing your best work. Like that doesn't happen by mistake. Like it happens because you've set yourself up to be in the best working spot possible.
100%. That's one by design, right?
Yeah.
That's one that's been engineered to work the same way every time. That's a system, and that's why, you build the system, you turn it on, and you leave the room, you turn the light off, and then you close the door. The system's gonna work. That's the beauty of it, right? And I love what you said about number of making creative decisions. What to wear. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna work on? What am I gonna wear? So it's like if you were to imagine you had a certain a limited number of creative decisions you could make in a day, like a deck of cards. You had 52 decisions you could make every day. If you put a limit on it, by the time sometimes noon comes, it's like, oh, I only got 22 cards left.
Yeah.
So how about making some of those decisions ahead of time? And if you make the same decision every day, well, then you literally are not using that card tomorrow. You're like, okay, I know exactly what my workout is. I know what I'm eating. My food's already prepped. Like food prep is a huge part of my lifestyle right now, because I don't have to think about what's to eat, and I eat good food, and it's the food that I like. So I don't really need to change it up that much. I mean, who doesn't like eating steak and eggs and bacon all day, every day, right? So as long as you choose the right diet, and what it really comes down to is portion control, right? So get your macronutrients right, measure everything, track it. And then even if you figure out your macros and your caloric intake, then it's just like, you know how much you're eating. Because it's not really what we eat. There's a lot of times it's like, how much of it are you eating? Even if you eat crap, like even if you can lose weight on a McDonald's diet, on an ice cream diet, it's all been proven, it's just how much of it you eat. So as long as you enjoy it, you're satiated, you're happy, obviously healthy, health often comes next. But if you start this whole formula with health up front, then you're going to be getting the right nutrients, micronutrients, macronutrients. And There is a number, there's a specific number that's like, this has been measured too, how many food related decisions we make every day and how exhausting that is, and how many calories are burnt every time you're sitting there. You're like, oh, what do I do? And you call your wife. It's like, I'll be like, Mary, like, what's for dinner? You know, she's like, oh, what do we have? I'm like, let me open the fridge. You know? And that's like a 5-minute conversation, you know, like 80 calories later and a bunch of thin question marks still remaining in your head. You probably still don't know what, should we just order in? All right, let's just order in.
Well,
It's like,
and
oh,
then
the
there's
worst
still
choice.
then there's still choice. You know, that again, there's still choices. I love your idea of like the 52 decision card deck. Like, I almost want to like see if we can make that and be like, hey, clients, be like, figure out how many decisions you're making. Like, if you have to make a choice every day and like pull a card out, be like, find out when you could get through 52. Because I would be, I bet people would be shocked at how many even just micro decisions they're making every day and going, why am I so tired? Why am I not, finding the success I'm looking for? Be like, oh, I've already blasted through all my creative choices by lunch, or I blasted through it by 1 o'clock. No wonder, half the day is now I'm running on empty, just trying to grind, and that's tiring in itself.
100%. Even having too many choices of tea bags, you know, is like, I have this white tea and I have this green tea and I have this black tea.
Yeah.
And like, I literally just went through it today. I'm like, which tea do I have? I ended up coming here with coffee, you know? It's like, it's like, forget the tea, you
Well,
know?
that's interesting. Like, that's interesting you say that, because I have like a tea regime, and I call it regime like loosely, but like until you just said that, I didn't really realize it. But like in the morning or like during the day, it's like this lemon ginger green tea, and then at nighttime it's a chamomile tea, and I don't intermix them. And I think that was just like my subconscious going, you need a routine, and like start to deploy that. But like that in itself, be like, when I reach for it, I don't even think about which one I'm going for anymore. It's just, here it is, plop in my cup, and away I go, and I'm off doing other thinking, instead of and we have a lot of tea, instead of like looking there going, oh, am I going to waste a card on this today?
Yeah,
That's
well, that's why I like you, because like, this is what my wife just did to me. We went to Trader Joe's and she just got like 4 fancy boxes of tea. I was like, man, same thing, like black tea in the morning, chamomile at night. Let me be, right? I was like, no, we have to get 4 different all the colors in the rainbow, you know.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
When you go to the grocery store and you're going down an aisle and you could be looking at detergent, or you could be looking at pit stick, and you'll see like 100 different brands of pit stick, and you're like, but I just want one. Like, and this is this, and I'm like, no, I just want one. And I remember hearing this a while back, and it was, take dating for example, and let's take dating as like for the apps. You can go on to like something like Tinder, and you can see 100 different people that you can match with them in a day. Oh, geez, who do I actually want to chat to? And like way back when, you didn't have like a 10,000 people just at the, just like that. Now let's take that into an ice cream shop. Let's say if you go to the ice cream shop and there's chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, it's not too hard to make a choice. Now go into one that there's 40 different choices. What choice are you going to make? And then you feel that pressure. And this is just getting an ice cream, but you're like, oh, I want that one. But then I also want that one. Oh man, I want that one too. And it can be hard making those. It seems so small and trivial, but trying to make those choices. And so when I was talking about the dating, so many people are trying to do the online dating and different aspects like this, and they're really struggling with it because of just the variety of choices that they have,
Yeah.
and the instant gratification that they can also get as well too.
Oh yeah, like on like the topic of having too many choices, there are studies. I'm just trying to remember the book that I read this from in the last few months, but like they basically, there's a lot of studies that show like putting like 3 options in front of somebody versus 24 options, and they were doing this as like a sample, like in a grocery store, as a sample, like testing against how many samples to show. The one that had 3 options like outsold significantly, because what would happen would be people would be like, oh wow, I like that one, I don't know if I like this one, like which one am I going to choose? And all of a sudden they're just burning energy trying to make this choice, and then they go, it's too much, I'm not making a choice. And like, how often is that being slammed into your day? Be like, do you have more than three choices or three things? Be like, well, that just means the energy tank's getting empty faster, right? Like the more that we talk about it, is like, Nader, you start talking about caloric intake, like think the calories is your fuel tank, and your brain like drinks a lot. It's a high performance machine that requires a lot of gas all the time. But if you think about every time you have to make a choice, you're like stepping on the gas a little bit, dip, 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 and you're going to sit around and dip that to make an ice cream, and then still think you're going back to being like giving your best when you need that, and your tank's empty. No, like how do you save yourself? How do you think about, it's almost like thinking about how do we make this the most fuel efficient machine that we have.
There was an episode of The Big Bang Theory where Sheldon was trying to figure out, like, he's like, "Oh, I've got all this stuff in my mind, but I'm too busy making these small decisions. So I'm going to take my dice and they're going to make all the decisions for me." So he'd go to a restaurant and be like, come on, root beer. And then he would get a pitcher of margaritas is what I'm drinking. But I didn't really want that. Well, the dice told me I'm having that, so that's what I'm going to have.
Now, you guys, there is a solution, and the solution is be boring like me. So same brand of coffee all the time.
Yep.
Don't deviate. There's no choice. I go, like your analogy, Tom, is beautiful. Like going down the grocery aisle and you're inundated with choices. I don't even look at it. I just know what coffee I want. Same thing with the pit stick. I just get my brand. I would be really curious to hear you guys' thoughts on this. I'm going to make an assumption. The assumption is that we're all entrepreneurial, and forgive me for assuming.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with that. I would love to know from you guys is what you're talking about in terms of scheduling your day and getting into that routine. Is that difficult for you? Or does that kind of give you freedom? Because for me, what I tend, because I know myself, I think, what I tend to do is I try to schedule the mundane, because the things that I want to accomplish during the day are more creative in nature. They're more like, I'll use the word serendipity again. They're more wanting to look out for those unplanned moments. That's where I get my energy. So I schedule the mundane, the repetitive, so I can give space for those other things to show up. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on, is what you're talking about draining for you? Or does that kind of give you energy?
I never thought about it like that, but I'm 100% protecting against myself. We're all coaches and entrepreneurs here, so like, yeah, like I am. If I'm not planned, I know my little squirrel brain is going to like take me, or if you listen to Jay Shetty, my monkey brain is going to run off in the other direction, and it'll just be gone. And that's it. Like it's enjoying going and exploring and having that time. And then all of a sudden I'll be like, here's a prime example today. I was supposed to be making a slow cooker roast beef this morning, and I thought 2 days ago, I'm like, I should put that in my calendar just so I don't forget, right? Because I had some meetings and stuff. Like today's been like meetings, running the dog all over. And guess what I remembered at like 11 o'clock, going, oh fuck, I forgot to start the roast beef. And now I'm like I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be home until like almost time for this call. I guess we're not having roast beef. And then I'm like thinking to myself, oh shit, what's the backup plan, right? Because past me went, yeah, I know what future you is going to do, right? Prepare yourself. And I was like, nah, I got this. I almost never got it. If I don't put those mundane things in, they're gone until like it's too late. And it's like, oh man. And then you have that anxiety, then you have to make some choices. So like there's definitely like a dip on it. I'm really glad we're doing this at 12 and not later in the day, because I already know that because of those choices, I only have like 23 cards left today, and I think I'm still going to need them, right? So that's definitely one thing I do to protect myself. And like when I did start doing so, I have a blog post from a couple of years ago where I talked about scheduling my week. Like I really gotten into Tony Robbins had like a time of your life program that I listened to numerous times, and I really got into like scheduling my week all around the mundane and around my big things that I'm trying to accomplish. Like just putting that time in there while leaving flex room for the creativity. But I found it was so beneficial to be going through that for me. Like it was tiring at first to get to used to doing it, but it was like maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks into it, I started to really enjoy it because I knew what a gift it was going to be. Like it was like picking up a new weight or doing a new exercise. That first little bit, it was just like, oh man, my body hurts. Like this is horrible. Like should I keep doing? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh look, I'm like crushing these pull-ups like nothing now. And it did make like I have when I do that and set myself up, I have like some of my best productive weeks, which turn into a productive month, which turns into like big winning years, right? Like it's incredible the things that I was able to accomplish while doing that, and still doing that for 90% of my time is all the mundane is taken care of, because you're right, like it totally slips away if I don't. I kind of dominated that. Tom and Nader, what are you guys' thoughts on Steven's question?
Go for it, Tom.
Well, having a 9-month-old, my days like it. Who knows what it's going to be? Like obviously I'm on this right now, but there's times where it's okay. I've got to call at 9 o'clock. No, it's not happening because Henry just woke up and he's angry. And so I do have a bunch of tasks that I look at. I'm like, okay, I got to get through these today, but when can I get through them? And sometimes it's just winging it. Sometimes it's okay. I've got an hour. I'm getting through this while I can, but I have to have those tasks that are up. And so usually I set up a weekly meal plan. When I have that, okay, this is what I got to get at the grocery store. This is what I need to do for this. And things will just go a lot smoother. As soon as I don't have that, it seems that everything else just gets kind of thrown off.
Yeah.
And I try to be flexible, and I have to be flexible because of my son. If I wasn't flexible, then it's just going to be that much worse. But there are times when it's okay, I've got that hour. What do I have to get through? And I talked to Gene about this a few weeks ago, that I have this list of these are my goals for the year. And they were right on my whiteboard. But then I thought, what am I actually doing? Like, yeah, I know those what my goals are, and they're in my head. They're already ingrained in there. So why am I looking at that every day when I need to start looking at what I'm actually trying to do to achieve those goals? And then I change it around. I'm like, okay, these are the different elements that I need to get through. And now I can prioritize where they need to sit at. That made a difference for me, because then it's those times when it's okay, I don't know how long until Henry wakes up. I got to get through some stuff. What do I got to do? And at least I already have some of that laid out where it's like, okay, this is what I got to get through. But there's times where I'm like, oh man, I want to go on Clubhouse. Well, I don't know when that's going to happen because Henry's up now. Oh, I want to read my book. Okay, well, that's going to have to wait until I actually have a few free hours and my wife comes home. And so there are some elements where I'm like, let's have the things laid out that I really want to get to, and at least know, okay, when I have that opportunity, let's work on it now. And other times it's, as much as I would like to say, from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., I'm doing this. And from this, no, it just do the best I can some days. And other days it's, okay, yeah, we're killing it. And one thing I always try to do is when I have that good free time and when I'm really in that creative space, that's when I'll start really getting through a lot of the material that I need to get through. When I'm in that right mindset. Because if I just try to do it a little bit every day, sometimes it'll work, and other times it's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
So,
What's your view on that, Nader?
yeah. So, I mean, I don't have a little Henry, so I can't tell you that I understand. I do have a Belfie, my dog, and like I know like 3 p.m. hits, it's time for him to play. You know, it's like he needs to go out. He needs to like he's very militaristic with his routine. So
Yeah.
I follow. So I know that okay, coaching calls need to, if I'm gonna be on Zoom, needs to end at 3, you know. Yeah. It's like a 1 to 2 to 3. Those are the 2 that I can do. If it's a podcast, 12 to 1, that's it. From 3 o'clock, there's some noise issues in the background, which I don't like to have. Right. But otherwise, aside from that, my days are very, I do program everything in there. So I'm in a romantic relationship with my Google Calendar. You know, so without my Google Calendar, I would not be who I am today. So I've tried it, but you know, we keep getting back together. You know. But one thing so everything is like literally, it's either 30-minute time slots or hour-long time slots. So everything's kind of like pre-programmed. I went through. I don't know if you guys know Grant Cardone. I went through Cardone University in 2016, and I'll tell you that since then, my calendar and my calendar management has been getting better and better. It just really became what it is today, and I've been improving it. And Grant used to say, I think he still says, that the empty spots on your calendar are the devil. You know, so it's like literally, I had that written down. It's like empty spots on my calendar are the devil. So even if it's like I have my sleep scheduled. You know, it's like 9 p.m. till 3 a.m. That's sleep. I got to go to sleep. I got a reminder. It's time to sleep. You know, like breakfast, shower, eat, everything. Like literally there's no empty spots. And that's one thing that I can kind of share as a tip. Another thing that's been a huge differentiating factor for me would be not to have a different schedule on the weekends. And I think for entrepreneurs like us, like especially if you work from home, we're more used to every day being the same, and we're probably guilty of working every day. If you have a normal 9 to 5 job outside of home, well then that's a different schedule. I understand that because I've been there, but like my Saturdays and Sundays look like every other day. It's just like, it's been quite a few years that I took the labels off. You know, I don't call them Mondays and Tuesdays, just another day. You know, yeah. And I tell that story to a lot of folks. Some might not get it because like I remember myself looking forward to like, happy Friday, it's Friday, you know. It's like I don't do that no more. It's like it's another day, you know. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, it's Christmas Day, it's New Year's Day, it's my birthday, it's just another day, you know. So from an outsider's point of view, it's kind of things become bland, like, you know, Steven said, boring. I don't look at it as boring at all, because then I would be the most boring person out there. You know? I don't celebrate occasions or anything like that, so it's like super boring that way. Otherwise, I do my best to protect my time, protect my thoughts and energy, because if it's not planned, then I start thinking, I start making decisions that just negatively affects my energy, and then I project that negative energy onto others. I won't be productive, my performance drops, and that's just a recipe for a disastrous day, you know.
Yeah, and those can add up, like just like a productive couple days add up in the good way. Like those negative days, like you talked about hitting your low point, like that was 40 days. Like in the grand scheme of thing, that's not a lot, but man, can you backslide quick? Like it can be like a week, and then all of a sudden you're like, man, that's a lot of like extra weight you got to then, you know, not lift off yourself and go, oh man, I'm starting with no momentum to get back moving again. It takes a long time to get that flywheel spinning, right? Like, and you know, maybe if any, you know, when people hear that, it's give yourself a little bit of grace to start small too, right? Like it can be super overwhelming going, I'm going to be the best at this, I'm going to just nail my schedule. And if you've never done that before, like start small, give yourself the opportunity to have these little wins, right? Like Nader, you said, like since 2016 you've been really, you know, getting super locked in with it, right? And I imagine like Steven, you're probably in a similar boat. This isn't something you just picked up yesterday. This is something you've been growing and cultivating over time to remove the mundane, to, you know, it sounds bland, but it's like it's super planned. You're giving yourself the best chance. And I've seen a lot of people try to, it's just like going to the gym, be like, I'm going to work out super hard. Be like, no, if you haven't worked out, you haven't stretched, and these are muscles, and that you can get them to be stronger. If you haven't done that before, you're going to go and you're going to hurt, and then you're going to be like, I don't want to go. That's painful. Be like, start small. Start, you know, like plan your sleep, plan when you're going to read, like, or even take it from another, is starting to look at something Tom said that kind of I picked out, was looking for those ways to plan around the types of work you want to do, right? Like, so you're a husband and a father with a young one at home. Be like, well, you could have like 30 minutes to 2 hours. Be like, well, what kind of work will you do in 30 minutes versus what you would do with 2 hours of your time, right? Like, start to, you can't put that on the calendar because Henry doesn't believe in Google Calendars yet. So, having that ability to be like, well, if I've got 30 minutes, then I know I'm going to do like X, Y, and Z. And if I've got 2 hours, well, I could work out. And, that's my workout time. That's my read time. That's my like get into my creative zone time, or my thinking, or my clubhouse time. Like, you could start to just even craft your time around the pockets that you have, right? Like, find those small pieces so you can start moving and add on to them. It's like Lego bricks. You're eventually going to build this real cool spaceship or a castle with it, but like, you gotta start with one brick.
But Tom, don't forget though, Nader's already romantically involved with Google Calendar, so you gotta choose something else for your son. It's got to be something different. Gene, I love what you're saying, and one of the things I find, guys, is I love the idea of like filling the calendar based on our own schedules. But one of the things that I've found in the last year that I've started to do is have a block in my calendar that says, and I'm being literal here, do nothing, or think, or read. And some of the, like, that was really, really hard for me early on, because I was like, I'm not being productive. There's 5 million other things I could be doing. But I found that I needed to just have that moment where I'm forcing myself to be disciplined, to just sit and think and let my mind breathe, like you were saying, Gene. And so that's been very useful and helpful for me, I found.
That's a great point, Stephen. Like, to remember that we're human beings, not human doings, right? And that's like one of the trappings of a lot of entrepreneurs is like, I just got to grind all the time. Be like, if you want to burn out and you want to feel completely overwhelmed, you want to piss all your relationships away, yeah, do that. If that's what you want, do you, boo. But I'm telling you right now, like, you need to be able to build in that downtime, that thinking time. That thinking time is like some of the best investments that you're going to ever make in yourself. Being able to get there and know that you can take the foot pedal off the productivity hamster wheel is so important.
I've got 3 hours of doing. Well, I call it literally. It's funny how you said rest and Gene said relationship. I call it rest and relationships. That's when I call my mom, call my dad, call my brother, call my sister.
Yeah.
Cook.
Nice.
I love cooking. So even if I have a meal prep, like making a salad, that would be just like de-stress. That would be just those are highlights of my day when I'm like working on I'm just like in flow, just pure, nice, clean knife cuts. Everything has to be calculated. Every dice of tomato has to be same size. Like, my OCD brain gets off on stuff like that, So I schedule it in, and like do the table, by the time my wife comes home, everything's nice and ready. I love vacuuming. Is like vacuum and clean everything, like I actually like enjoy stuff like that. But that's part of my rest. That's part of my like rest, do nothing, relationship, family, phone calls. It's just, I call it rest and relationships, kind of like everything falls underneath,
Great.
And then there's a specific slot for food, for eating, which is like, 8 to 9. And then neither of us watches TV. Like, we might flip through a couple of YouTube channels, which is all about dogs probably, watch a couple of dogs, and then that's it. We're done. We're asleep at 9.
That's awesome, man. Well, I just looked at the clock. I know we really, we're bookending into our time here today. So I want to give everybody a round of opportunities just to kind of wrap up with some, thoughts on how you guys wrap up your days. We talked a lot about how we start our days, but what's wrapping your days down look like? Winding it all down and getting ready for the next one. Nader, we'll start with you.
Sure, I'll go first. So one of the things I do is an evening reflection. So just what went well today. Start with celebrating my wins, because that gets your energy up. What didn't go so well today? What could I have done that would have made today better? What did I learn about myself? What did I learn about others? So it's basically those 5 questions. What went well? What didn't go well? What could I have done better? What did I learn about myself? What did I learn about others? It's those 5 quick questions, and quickly answer them. After a little while, you just, like, I have memorized those questions. You have it in your head.
Yeah.
It could be like sticky notes, post-it cards, journal, as long as whiteboard, you get those questions down. And it's a reset. It's just today. You look at them tomorrow, you're like, okay, yeah, I know what happened yesterday. And that's literally the point. It helps you go to sleep. Like when you go to bed, you close your eyes, but the thoughts are still there, haven't left yet.
Yeah.
You kind of like get rid of those thoughts and those obstacles before you get to bed. You get a deeper sleep. You'll much better rested, and you'll have a better day. Nice.
Stephen, what about you?
Nader, thanks for sharing that. It's really inspiring. I'm at a stage in my life, because I'm in a different stage. I have 2 adult boys. Well, they're 21 and 19. They live at home, and so my routine is different than obviously yours, Tom, and yours, Nader, and yours, Gene.
Yeah.
And so I find that because my wife works part-time, she's at home as well. I use that night routine to connect with her. We communicate throughout the day, but there's really a need, and it's what we've both established, is to have that time where she and I are connecting. From a personal, professional standpoint, I've been obsessed with the idea of the one thing. And so when I do what you guys are all talking about, where the night before you're already projecting into the next day, I've got my list of things that I need to do, but I really am trying to discipline myself to be about accomplishing, which to me is different than doing, but accomplishing one thing. And it usually is around what you're talking about, Nader, around, the people, like the who, and those types of things. And so that is also the question that I ask myself: did I accomplish that one thing that I really wanted to accomplish? Did I get other stuff done? Yes, hopefully. But what's that one thing that I accomplished?
That's powerful.
Tom?
Well, my day pretty well starts the way it ends, and that's walking my dog. And that's sometimes the only peace I get, unless she sees a cat. Then forget it. And then it's all over. But as soon as I get up, I walk my dog, and near the end of the night, there are some nights where it doesn't happen, but I try to walk her every single night. And it depends on how my son is. That's a big thing for me. And as much as I want to, like, what I end up realizing is when I had the free time before, how little I was scheduling with, this is what I need to do, this is when I can do things. And now there's times when I'm like, oh man, I got to schedule this stuff in, but I can't have it right down. And for me, I really have to be flexible with just when I'm doing things. And the other thing I really have to do for myself is listen to how I'm feeling, because there's times when it's, you know what, it's 7:30, Henry's asleep, I'm going to sleep too, because I need to. And at the end of the day, I'm really just listening to see how I am. If I've got energy, let's go and do some more. If I don't have any more, then I just need to listen to myself. And usually it's when I walk my dog Indy, and then it's like, okay, how am I feeling? What can I do? Or is this it? I'm just going to bed.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's you have those opportunities, and you're building in that self-awareness, right? And that's another critical component, which we'll save for another day. And for myself, I think I have a similar system as Nader. Like I write down the 5 things I'm grateful for, and the one thing that I've learned or kind of been, relearned or just made aware of, the thing that stood out the most awareness for me that day. And it's a bit of a process. And then I've got a book of questions around just relationships, and I answer that once a day. And it's just got a day of questions, and then you go through it and a quick little answer. It helps me like turn my brain off, like ended on a good note, especially around gratitude. And just like I can drift off really easy. And the times that I forget it, I know. I know right away, and I can feel it. It's amazing how quickly those things become really important. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on this. This was a great conversation. I'm super happy that all four of us were able to be on here today and talk about how we start and wrap up our days. And actually, we got quite into the middle of how we run our days. So thank you to everyone. We'll make this video totally available later on.
Thank you for setting it up.
All right.
Thanks, you guys. Great to chat with you. Appreciate
Nice
you guys.
meeting you, Steven. Yeah, nice meeting you, Tom.
All right, guys. We'll see you all later.
Sounds good.
All right.
Take care,
have a
guys.
great rest of your days.
Yeah.
Dude.
Bye.